Welcome to the Adjudicator briefing for the USU Open 2024. You're listening to Ben Hewitt, one of the members of the Adj Corps. The whole Adj Corps today has put together a collection of what we hope are engaging, thought-provoking topics that range from chestnuts, new takes to old ideas, and hopefully something you'll find new and interesting. Unlike most debating tournaments, everyone will be judging at some point over the weekend. We know that we come with a wide range of experience, from having never adjudicated before to being quite an old hand. So whether you're one of those old hands or a first timer, I hope that you find something in this presentation interesting. If you have any questions about judging at this tournament or the presentation, please feel free to approach one of the Adjudication Corps. We're all friendly people and we'll be happy to help. One small correction, you won't find me this young or wearing an ostrich, but you probably will find me throwing up a shuckers every now and then, so feel free to come and say hello. There are three things I'd like to cover in this briefing. Firstly, judging a debate. Secondly, allocating speaker points. And thirdly, delivering an oral adjudication, sometimes known as an OA. When judging a debate, teams are going to tell you things, and usually they'll arrange those things into issues or themes or points. Whilst lots of things can be said, usually the points which are a debate winning are both true and they are important. A team might be able to tell you that affirmative action is very, very effective, but if the debate is that we should invade North Korea, it's not really going to be very important. Likewise, a team could argue that getting kids more pocket money is a life or death situation, and while life or death situations matter, this one probably isn't true. So the team that proves the most important claims true for them is probably the team that wins. Truth is usually proven by teams by well-explained mechanisms, factual and plausible premises, characterizations that are backed by examples and analysis, or maybe they're pointing out contradictions in the other team's case. Importance is usually proven or disproven by principled analysis, impacting, and mutual agreements from teams. What I mean on this one is to say sometimes teams agree and just tell you, we both think this is the most important issue in the debate and the winning team is going to prove it right. Sometimes teams, for a variety of reasons, the debate got very messy, maybe the teams aren't very experienced, didn't have much explicit weighing in the debate, but perhaps both teams kind of spent nearly most of their speech talking about the same back and forth issues. So that one's likely the mutually agreed most important issue in the debate. Sometimes teams point out contingencies between issues which make them less important or reliant on a secondary, more important issue. Generally speaking, the only thing we'd ask here is when evaluating what arguments you think are true and important, use what the teams give you and try to avoid entering the debate yourself. I understand sometimes adjudicators, we see the arguments we want to hear, we know what the next step is or how we'd make the little debate a little bit better, but it's the most important thing that it is the things the teams say which win the debate, not the thing which you would have said afterwards. Occasionally, adjudicators are required to, do a little bit of weighing in the absence of anything from the team, but just try not to be like this guy. And if you do that, things should be fine. All right. Speaker scores. I'm not going to go through and read this whole thing verbatim. People have made lots of these, and this is one I threw together, but I just will cover a few key points. The first is that the range is 70 to 80, 70 being the lowest score and 80 being the highest. Do not score outside of this range. Second, the average is 75. It's likely that a speech made this way hasn't made you feel strongly about if the debate is leaning one way or another, and it probably contains most, if not all, of the things you would expect in a speech, but maybe some of them are done clumsily or inefficiently. Speeches that are better than 75 should make you feel like the speaker has increased their team's chance of winning. And obviously, if a speaker has made you feel like their team's chances of winning have improved a lot, they're probably going to be in the higher range of that above 75. Speeches that are worse than 75 won't do that. Speeches with very low scores might have even made you feel like they've hurt the team's chance of winning. Please don't feel the need to inflate speaks for any particular round. Just judge each speech as you hear it and score it appropriately. Replies are unique to the Austral style, and they are a half-length speech delivered in reverse order, so negative then affirmative, at the end of each debate. Keep in mind that replies are not for introducing new argumentation or rebuttal. Any material which you identify as clearly new and novel should likely be disregarded. However, a skilled debater should and will identify how previously introduced material or rebuttal interacts with the existing issues, perhaps in ways which haven't been pointed out before, and that's fine. They should explain why their team won all of the important issues in the debate. Some people call this a biased adjudication. Scoring a reply, given that it is half the length of a speech, is half the score. And that's done by using the regular speaker score scale and dividing by 2. So a 75 becomes a 37.5, a 78 becomes a 39. You all have phones. Please feel free to use a calculator if math has been a struggle for you. And noting that it is not a speaker score minus 40. So 76 does not become 36, right? That's 76 minus 40. The real score for a 76 on the speaker score scale is a 38 in the reply score scale. Please be careful when doing this. Some other thoughts on speaker scores. Try to avoid thoughts like, oh, well, I know this person is good and they will deliver at least a 77. Good speeches create good reputation for speakers and not the other way around. So often speakers who have quote unquote rep will give good speeches, but that's because the speeches are good, not because they have the rep. And sometimes even the best of us, myself guilty included, just meme around and probably deserve to be punished if we're not on our, doing our best. Secondly, matter and style does matter. Obviously, speakers with appropriate projection and pace will be easier to hear and understand, and clarity is a feature of a persuasive speech. But also things like tone, pausing, emoting can create powerful moments in speeches, and we shouldn't avoid crediting those. Debating isn't an essay reading competition, and part of a speaker's style and what they bring to the debate, don't feel bad if you think if it persuaded you, it should probably deserve some credit. But just when you're doing this, keep in mind that persuasion comes in all shapes, sizes, or indeed for speeches, sounds. Some speeches are forceful, poetic, some are clinical, touching, and all of these, when executed well, can be persuasive. Don't punish things like accent, gender, or an unconventional style. When you're making the decision, it's a ballot vote in this tournament, not consensus. That means that it is a vote, not a discussion. You make the decision yourself without speaking to the rest of your panel. You input that decision into your e-ballot, and then after the decision is inputted, then you talk about it with the rest of the panel. Make sure that the team you allocate as the winning team has the most speaker scores. And after the e-ballots are submitted, the chair will lead the discussion of the result. You cannot change your mind during this time, even if you felt that you made a mistake. The ballot you entered on the e-ballot is final. If you are a panel of chair and panelists, then it is majority rules. So that is either a 3-0 or 2-1. If you're a trainee, your vote doesn't affect the result, but you should make a vote and write it on a piece of paper anyway, so you can participate in the discussion, and so the chair can hear you out and give feedback if necessary. If the chair is in the majority, then the chair will deliver the oral adjudication. However, if the chair is in the minority, that is to say they are quote unquote rolled, then one of the panelists must give the oral adjudication. Just whoever's feeling the most confident about it can do it. When you're delivering an oral adjudication, the first thing teams usually do is general feedback. While general feedback is a good feature of a good oral adjudication, if there is something general to be said about the debate, like, both teams lack structure, or both teams didn't address each other's points very well, or maybe models, there was too much model bashing or something like that, then feel free to give that. However, if there is no general feedback, like teams were quite unique in their strengths and flaws, it is not necessary to give it and pretend like there was a general issue that existed when it really didn't. The second thing is give the result. Please be relatively prompt in this. It is not a good experience as a debater to hear 1 to 2 minutes of the adjudicator doing their best to be vague when it's really clear what they think and we're all just waiting to hear the end anyway. Just give the result and then give your explanation. When you're giving an explanation, try to give a brief list of the major issues or clashes or whatever, and the team's stances in those issues. You don't have to give a full recount of the debate. We have allocated 4 rounds into each day, so time is of the essence. A brief summary is acceptable, and teams be understanding that adjudicators might not have picked up every last bullet point you put out, but it should reflect the major issues. Your final decision on how the debate went down should ideally be arguments the team made, not novel pieces of analysis that you thought of. Sometimes teams don't give you much to work with, and so you might have to give some of your own reasoning to weigh in, on how to weigh issues. But for example, if there are tensions or contingencies in teams' cases, it's the other team's job to point that out, not yours. So yeah, if you do think it would be instructive to deliver some feedback or constructive criticism during the OA, like, oh, look, I noticed these 2 issues are in tension, you can say words to the effect of, just going to take my decision hat off for a moment here and just point out this thing which I think, would have been good if teams talked about, but now obviously putting the decision hat back on and go on to deliver the adjudication using arguments that the teams made. It is nice if you're feeling confident to end each issue where you decided on with maybe just a brief thought on what you wanted to hear or something, or a direction you wanted to hear the other team going in, something like, for the other team to win the debate, I would have needed to hear something like this, or I would have needed to hear more analysis on this. And that at least gives teams like some clarity as to what they could have done next time to win. Feedback. You, of course, should offer teams individual feedback at the end, but don't expect them to seek it out if you don't want to. And please don't take offense. The most common reason for teams not seeking feedback is often that they're just hungry and want lunch. Okay. Dealing with difficult debaters. Obviously, debating is a thing where you've often invested 2 hours into winning something, and if you lose, sometimes you're upset. But the request to the debaters is, please don't be difficult to the adjudicators. In this tournament especially, you are all adjudicators, so be nice to each other. Secondly, there is an equity policy. Part of that equity policy is being social and friendly and, not mean to your fellow debaters and not being antisocial, so follow the equity policy. And lastly, if you are a chair and you find yourself in a conversation which is beginning to feel more like an interrogation, you don't have to participate. You can just say, look, politely, not feeling super comfortable about the way this is going right now, so I'm just going to step away, and you don't have to re-engage if you don't want to. Lastly, please have fun. We hope you enjoy these debates. Debating tournaments are awesome. I've done many of them, as we all have, and so please do your best to have a good time. All right, that's it. Bye-bye.